I'm here today with Manoj and James from Hammock, and today we're going to be looking at how they can save your practice and your landlords time and money looking after the management of their property. Say hello, Manoj.
Hello.
Hello, and hello, James.
Hey.
Hello. I can't wait to get started, so let's go. This morning, we have in our midst an MBE. Now, we've never had an MBE on a presentation with me before, Manoj. So can you just start by sharing how you got the MBE? Or why was that bestowed on you, if that's the correct language?
Okay, so this is always awkward to talk about, actually, so thanks for bringing it up. But
You're very welcome.
So the MBE, I was honoured with the MBE in the New Year's Honours List this year in 2021, and that was because of the charity services that myself and Hammock did last year during the pandemic, along with loads of different volunteers. So during the first lockdown, we had the whole PPE crisis. Hammock and loads of volunteers, we set up a volunteering charity to help source PPE. And we did that pretty much over the weekend, evenings and weekends we were working. We sourced loads of suppliers in the UK who had stock PPE, and we helped match them with charities and hospitals. We ended up shipping over to 250 organizations. We're talking like large hospitals, large charities like Mary Curie, Sue Ryder, NSPCC. And over the 3 months, I think we shipped around like £5 million worth of PPE.
Did you? And the Hammock was involved in organising that and structuring it and ultimately sourcing it and then delivering it.
Yeah, 100%. And also, it was growing so fast that we ended up having like 20 volunteers who were helping us out. So it almost became its own organisation, basically. And none of us made a single penny from it, and we just did it to really help and try and help like mediate the PPE crisis. And the hospitals, the charities that worked with us, they saw us as the last line of defense. So typically they would use us when they've run out of stock of PPE. So they tried the government, the councils, the NHS, and literally our USP was that we'll ship it out the next day. So they will literally see us as the last line of defense. And yeah, it was quite intense when we launched it. We had no idea it would become so big. And the idea pretty much came from one of the charities that I'm a chairman for. My CEO rang me on a Thursday on the 17th of March. I remember it as clear as day. And she said to me, we've run out of PPE and we can't ship. Our carers can't go out. Our nurses can't go out to look after the people. So I spent the whole morning sourcing PPE, and what I realized is this must be a national problem. It can't be a local problem to my charity. So that's where we set up the website over the weekend, and it just went crazy after that, to be honest.
Brilliant. There's a virtual round of applause for that for that effort. So let's get on to the software then. So how does the software work? Let's have a look.
Yeah, sure. So look, I will just quickly go through our presentation. Just bear with me. And so in terms of Hammock, there's 3 co-founders of Hammock. There's myself, Marco, and Mike. I head up the organization. I do various different things. This is my full-time job. And I am also a landlord. And that's kind of where the idea came from. And so in terms of the problem that Hammock is trying to solve, so there's loads of landlords out there in the UK, and like myself, many of them are actually part-time landlords. And the problem, the big problems for me as a landlord is like trying to keep track of my properties, which ones are profit making, which ones have expiring documents like gas certificates, which ones have mortgages expiring. And the other big problem is actually filing taxes. And I always file my taxes late, always. And it's not because it's extremely difficult to do in terms of like my bookkeeping. It's just because I hate paying my taxes, and it's always in the back of my mind, and I delay it as much as possible because I just don't like doing it, preparing for it. And like many landlords, like myself, they probably have the same situation. So we are reliant on spreadsheets, and I get HMRC fines every year without fail. Normally, I'm sure many landlords are like me, a similar situation. It's a whole manual process to prepare my accounts. You know, I download my bank statements, put them into spreadsheets. Every year, the compliance for management property gets more complicated. I use letting agents. I use my accountant to help out where I can, and the big elephant in the room is in 2 years' time, you know, MTD is going to make my life a real nightmare. And not only me, for the accountants, right? So I have two portfolios, one in a limited company and one in my personal name. And I use my accountant for both properties, both portfolios, sorry. And I'm just thinking like my accountant, you know, if he's got 500 landlords that he's looking after, he must receive 500 different spreadsheets sometimes, right? And there's loads of different accountants who have different processes, but landlords don't like using bookkeeping software. And the reason is most bookkeeping software is tailored for the SME market. It's not actually tailored for property. And what ends up happening is my accountant chases me like several times towards the end of the year. And I'm assuming he's chasing all these other landlords at the same time. And also, I know it's a bottleneck in January is for all accountants. I feel your pain as accountants because of people like me who file their taxes late. I know the bottleneck is very real. And I would imagine most, you know, MTD landlords are probably thinking, what the heck, I have to do this 4 times a year. I would imagine it's even more scary for the accountants who are thinking, damn, I've got to chase my landlords 4 times a year. So yeah, I would imagine the problem is very real for both accountants and landlords. So Hammock as a solution, we've built a platform which works for both landlords and accountants. So for accountants, what we do is we standardize all the bookkeeping process for all of their landlords. So every year or every quarter when MTD comes out, when the landlord prepares their accounts, what we've done is standardize that process. So if you've got 800 landlords, you receive 800 different data points, but in the same format, helping you save time and money. The other major thing Hammock's doing is actually, because we provide real-time bookkeeping, we're actually going to front load, hopefully, the tax filing. So landlords will actually be able to file their taxes a lot earlier. And this is one of the reasons why I created Hammock, is just because I wanted to know how much tax I'm going to pay in advance, and I need to be able to save for that. And as a result of Hammock, I've now started filing my taxes a lot earlier. And the other major benefit for accountants is you've got collaboration with your landlords, and it gets you ready for MTD. In terms of landlord benefits, Hammock started as a platform for landlords, right? So when I started building Hammock, the two things I had in mind. One is actually, how do I grow my portfolio? How do I manage my portfolio finances, my yields, my LTVs, my return on investment? And secondly, it was the bookkeeping and tax statements, because that was one of my big bugbears. So in terms of the landlord benefits, it keeps all of your property finances in one place. Hammock automatically reconciles the transactions, so income that comes in and also expenses that go out, such as mortgages. We also notify the landlords when there's a missing rent payment. We let them know when the tenants have paid, real-time information, and we also remind them when their gas certs are due or any other compliance documents are due for renewal. So as a platform, you know, Hammock is more than just bookkeeping and tax statements. It does a lot for the landlords. How it works, we've got two main products. We have rent collection via the bank feed. So most landlords already have a current account. We are FCA regulated. We use open banking to connect to the existing bank account, and we will fetch all the transactions in real time. And then our second solution is we actually have our own current accounts, which are also regulated. So this is more aimed at landlords who set up a limited company. So if you've got a client who you are advising to set up a limited company to buy properties in the future, they will be a perfect customer of ours. Our current accounts are designed for these landlords who set up portfolios in a limited company. So like myself, I have a portfolio in a limited company. I use a Hammock current account for that. I'm now going to hand over to James, who's going to do a demo. But just before I do that, in terms of the main platform, Hammock focuses on 4 key areas: banking, bookkeeping, tax statements, and property insights. I'm now going to pass it over to James, who's going to do a demo of the platform.
Okay, cool. So thanks, Manoj. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. I'm hoping this should be the fun part of the demonstration. Let's say I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Now I know Simon already said this at the start, but please do feel free to ask questions as we go along. It'd be great to turn this into more of a conversation than just me, doing it like a 15-minute demo. And hopefully there will be questions as we go through. I guess what I should start by saying is the dashboard you're looking at right now, this is what your clients see. So I'm going to take you through the landlord product first. Then I'm going to show you how you access your landlords through your own dashboard. So when I go through this demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by really going through the main benefits or the main features of Hammock that benefit both you and your clients. And then after that, I'm going to show you the benefits that are really just for your landlords, that you wouldn't get in a kind of more bespoke, in a more generic bookkeeping tool. And these are the reasons, whilst they're probably less interesting to you as an accountant, these are the reasons that are going to get your clients to log in more frequently and be more engaged with the product. And that's kind of what we see across the board. So I'm going to start you off on the property page. So this is exactly what it says on the tin. This is where your landlords would have their properties. You can see here, I've got 3 properties added to mine. I've actually got kind of an interesting setup. Myself, I have one of my properties in a limited company, and then I have 2 properties that are actually in my name that I co-own with my sister. And I can set those different portfolios up here. Can add as many different portfolios and ownership structures as I need to. And this becomes particularly important when I get you to the tax statement area. So I will talk a bit more about that then. But I guess the key point here is that regardless of the different ownership structures that your clients might have, Hammock can handle those. And you can see here, for each of my properties, I can see really easily, how much money am I making? How much money am I owed? Like, you get your arrears figure per property, per tenant. And, especially during COVID, I don't know if you've been speaking to your landlords, but the arrears is quite stressful. It's hard when people haven't necessarily always had the money to pay their rent. Having to keep track on that as well can be difficult. So actually having a tool that kind of does all of that for you automatically is really helpful.
Yeah, what's quite interesting as well, James, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, is actually when last year, when the first lockdown happened, we saw at least 40% of our landlords were impacted with late rent payments, 40%, which is kind of quite scary. And that was just the first lockdown. The second lockdown, we didn't see as much of an impact. But in the first lockdown, 40% of our landlords and properties had a missing rent payment over the first lockdown. So yeah, it's just really interesting to see the insights we get from our platform.
Yeah, and our landlords have even told us that this actually did take away a bit of stress, and just knowing that there's a system that's kind of managing that for you and helps you make payment plans to pay it back. So it's definitely an insight the landlords really value. And on each of these properties, I can also drill down here, and I can sort of see visually how has my income and expenses gone throughout the year. You can see very clearly I didn't get any rent in November. And it sort of shows me how my expenses go out throughout the year as well. I can also, I can easily see what my loan to value is. These are all things that before Hammock I would have to do on a spreadsheet, but now I've got a system that's just doing it for me. And so you can kind of just see the additional insights you get here compared to if I was just to log into my bank account, I just get one balance and I hope that it goes up. Here I actually see that granular detail. How much money am I making on each property?
James, just while you're doing that, I think, because I've got a stupid question, I think you may have already you might have just answered it, but my accountancy brain is going, if you scroll down, my accountancy brain's going £400 a month for Sunny Dean, 12 times 12 is 4,800 quid. So that reconciles for the income figure. On the Newcastle one, the 345, that obviously 345 times 12 doesn't equal the 3996. So is the 3996, or is the income figure, is that the last 12 months cumulative? And does that obviously exclude if you're not paid in a month because you allow somebody off, or you've got a rent-free period, or the property's empty, say, for a period of time?
Sure. So whilst we do love stupid questions on here, that actually wasn't a stupid question at all. It was a very good question. So we're currently here filtered on the tax year. So I'm actually looking at the 12 months from April 2020 to April 21. You can change that here as well. That income figure is literally just any transactions that you have categorized as rental income in that period. And actually leads me on to literally the next thing I was about to say is, it's all well and good, we've got these numbers here, but where do they come from? And for that, I'm going to jump over to the transaction screen. Now, I'm sure everyone on this call has some familiarity with the kind of bookkeeping tools that are out there at the moment. And most of them use open banking these days, so I'm sure I don't really need to go into too much detail around that. But effectively, the way Hammock works is that your landlords connect their bank account or multiple bank accounts to Hammock. And by doing so, all of their transactions will feed through here. As Manoj alluded to in the intro, we do also offer our own current accounts. So Hammock is the UK's first current account that is designed specifically for landlords. And they can be either personal or business. So we can handle if you have limited companies and they need a new account, we can help them there.
Before you go, sorry, James, because I don't want to lose it. So Paul's asked a question around the filtering. So on that screen, you could filter by tax year. If they're a limited company, or potentially they don't have a, can you filter by something other than the tax year? Is the question?
Yeah, you can.
So also on this page, so if I go into my limited company, I can actually.
It's on the edit shareholders, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. Sorry. You can edit the tax year here, so I can put whatever the different dates are for a limited company tax year. Obviously for your personal one, it will default to the self-assessment.
And while you're there, actually, you can actually, when you've got a limited company, you can add all the different shareholders in there. So,
I'll just see that. I'll just like ding.
So it's pretty powerful platform. It's really designed for landlords, but I'll let you carry on with the transactions, James.
Yeah, and on that point, I guess a lot of what I've set up on this demo is kind of my personal situation, but as you all know, there's many different setups and ownership structures you can have. We can even handle like companies that own companies that own companies. So all of that stuff is covered.
Thank you, James. I've got another one as well. Thank you for that question, Paul. Neil has asked, it's focusing, or you seem to be focusing on cash. Can you handle accruals basis as well?
So no. So Hammock is a cash accounting system. So we work off your live transaction data. Now we are in the process of building out kind of a journal system, which would enable you to then do prepayments and accruals. But it is primarily it's a cash accounting system.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. That's all I've got for the moment, James.
Sure. No, thanks. I really appreciate the questions. It's great. And so, once your landlords have connected their bank account or bank accounts, you will then see that we've got a load of different filters here, which enable them to kind of run through their transactions and find a specific rent payment and a specific expense and categorize them accordingly. Now, what I'd really like to do is take you guys through the process of how your landlord would add a property, track the rent, and track some expenses. So I'm just going to jump back here. I'm just going to click add property. Then all they need to do is either type in the postcode or the first line of the address, and you just start typing, and it immediately comes up. And I say, pick my property. Now, if it's an HMO, they can tick here and add the number of tenants. You can also choose which of your portfolios you'd like to add it to. So I'm going to add this to my limited company, and then I just hit add property. And if I want to add more properties, obviously I can just do the same thing again. So you can see then I get a lovely picture of my property. I can, I can see here, like it's currently, I haven't added any tenants, obviously, and we haven't tracked any transactions. And so for that, we jump over to the transaction screen. And this is where I'm going to use these filters to help me find my rent payment. Now I know that my rent on this property is £420. So I'm just going to look at anything that's above 420. And straight away, I can see there's a transaction here for my most recent rent payment. Now, all I do is I just click on that transaction. And whenever I do that, this menu will open up on the right-hand side, and it will ask me to categorize it. And then I can choose to link it to a property or a portfolio. So here I'm going to select rental income. Again, I'm going to add the property that we just added. And when I go to select a tenant, obviously we haven't added any yet. So I'm just going to add a tenant from here. Now, one thing probably worth noting here, because I know if I don't say it, one of you is going to ask, is, can Hammock handle landlords that use letting agents? And as Manoj alluded to here before, he actually does use a letting agent. I actually don't, but we can handle both. If I set this up as a tenant, obviously it's very simple. You just track the rental amount as expected. If I set it up as a letting agent, Hammock will also ask me how often I pay my fees and what those agent fees are, so that even though it's the net amount that hits your bank account, Hammock will automatically add on the rent top up to take it to the full gross rent, and it will create that letting agent fee for them. In this instance, I say I don't actually use an agent. I'm just going to set it up as a regular tenant. Say, James, my rent's £420. The next payment date will be the 28th of next month. This tenancy actually started last January. So I'm just going to go January 28th, and they pay monthly. So hit save. So that tenancy has been created. And then to track this transaction, I just click save. And you can see straight away, this is now assigned as rental income to the property and to that tenant. And then I can come down here and I can either do a search and track, which will basically allow me to tick any other transactions in my transaction list, or I can just click view matching transactions. And Hammock actually goes back through my entire bank statement and tries to find anything similar. And you can see here, it's managed to pull in all of my rent payments from February back to January. So I can just select all of those and hit track. And as I say, the great thing about Hammock is because it learns, now next month when my tenant pays, Hammock will just track that automatically. I'll get a notification either by text, email, or on the mobile app if I'm using it, letting me know that my rent's been paid. So whereas obviously normally as a landlord, I'm checking my bank statement, updating a spreadsheet, in this, it kind of flips it on the head. And this is actually Hammock just tells me my rent's been paid. And actually more importantly, if my rent isn't paid, Hammock will notify me that it's late as well, which is obviously
it's probably worth noting here, so once the landlords have set up uploaded the properties and tenants, actually Hammock does 90% of the work automatically in real time. So once we've connected to the bank account and the landlords have set up their accounts, pretty much Hammock does most of the work for them at 90%.
Yeah, so all your regular payments, so rental income, mortgage, insurance, anything that's a regular payment, once it's tracked once, Hammock will track that automatically going forward.
Yeah.
So really all the landlord needs to do is just track those one-off payments. And for that, they would just do it exactly the same way. Just click on a transaction. You've got lots of different expense categories to select from here. So maybe I might say, okay, this is maintenance and this was some cleaning. I can again link it to a property. You say that was a one-off payment, hit save. And again, that's now been assigned as cleaning to that property. It will feed the P&L, it will feed the tax statement.
It's probably worth noting the notes and receipts as well, right?
Yeah, so on this cleaning bill, if maybe you've got given an invoice or receipt, you can add your receipt here. Just click receipt and attach that to the document. Similarly, if I wanted to leave notes for my accountant, I can do so. My accountant can leave notes for me back. I just click get back in there, I'll show you that. So if I just want to click add a note, I can just type something here, and that will then save and be flagged to my accountant, and then my accountant can reply. So it's really
Simon, you have a question, yeah.
Yeah, so there's lots of questions coming in just because I've got one. So I have a property management company for my properties. So occasionally on the property statement, they will deduct, say for argument's sake, the boiler goes wrong and they organise the plumber for me and they deduct 20 quid because they paid the plumber to go out for the cool air. How do you handle that?
So actually, let me show you that. So I'm just actually going to have to. So I've got this property here, Sunny Dean. This is kind of going to show you something I was going to show you later, but that's fine. So I'm going to show you, if I click on here, now this is a tenancy that's been set up as a letting agent, where my full rental amount is £400, but I pay my agent £53.65 every month, which means that what hits my account is £346.35. Now, you can see here that my April payment has actually been paid. But if I go in here, and let's pretend that wasn't my April payment, and this £50 was instead. When I click on here, because it's not the expected amount and it's not the full rent payment, Hammock wouldn't actually track this one automatically. I would track it myself, and I would say this is rental income. I would select the property, I would select it, and straight away it tells me here, this rent is less than expected. Would you like to create an expense for the difference? So I would then just say, yes, that is because of, say, maintenance, and then maybe repairs, or, maybe it was a gas certificate they did that month, etc. And when I do that and save that, then actually what Hammock does is Hammock not only tops my rent up for the regular fee that I would pay every month, but it also tops the rent up for that missing £250 as well.
So what it's done is created the expense, and it's also created a rent top up. So for accounting purposes and tax purposes, you're fully covered basically.
Yeah, it's shown how it should be. Brilliant, thank you. So at the moment, I've got an Excel spreadsheet and I've got agent statements and I've got my own bank statement, and obviously it's a combination of the two, and then I'll get into a mix about, okay, well, it's on the spreadsheet, but was it an agent cost or was it one that I've put, and blah blah blah. So excellent, brilliant, I can see how that works. And on a similar vein, Malcolm's asked, presumably for Hammock to work efficiently, the landlord has to have a dedicated property business bank account rather than a personal account with huge number of domestic transactions in.
So actually, most of our landlords don't have a dedicated property account. So if you think about all the accidental landlords, hardly any of them set up separate property accounts. And even landlords with so I'm a portfolio landlord. All the ones in my personal name are straight with the Barclays. I get trigger happy with I'm buying a property. I don't think about creating a new bank account. So actually Hammock, it works whether you have it all mixed in or whether you don't actually. So we have indicators on the type of transactions.
Yeah, so it's just for me to turn it back into my language. What you do is you connect that personal bank account to Hammock.
Yeah.
And then over the period of, say, let's just say 2 months, in order to iron out any anomalies, you match the transactions to the properties on your personal bank account. And then going forward, Hammock just goes in and goes, oh, that's 450 quid. That's the rent on that. That's an income from that. And it matches them across automatically on your personal bank account.
Yeah, and
on any bank account.
Yeah, it actually does it the first day. So as soon as you tell us on the day of setup, Hammock will actually go back.
I'll go back and do it. Okay.
Go back and do it as well, or look at your previous. So if you onboarded landlords today as an accountant, and we set them up, we can actually prepare the accounts for them to submit it now. Was Hammock open banking goes back to the previous 12 months or 13 months.
Oh, okay. So from a time perspective, if we're looking at doing 2021 tax returns, there's nothing to stop us starting now
and
doing last year's.
Yeah.
So instead of typing all the bank statements out and creating the spreadsheets, etc., for us, we could actually do it automatically in the software already, and ultimately then have it set up ready for 21, 22 as well?
Yeah, so the accountants that already use us, one of the main reasons is they want them to get used to using a tool, because when MTD comes, it's going to be a real nightmare if they're not using the software.
Yeah.
But also, we've removed that bottleneck for some of the accountants that everyone files in January, right? Because the accountant's dashboard, which James will show you shortly, you can actually see which landlords are ready to file the taxes.
Excellent, thank you. And then Sinead's asked, can a cleaning invoice, but I mean, this could be any invoice, but can a cleaning invoice be split across the 2 properties?
Yeah,
James.
Yeah. So and that kind of feeds actually back into what you were saying about the letting agent. So kind of what I showed you, where Hammock automatically notices that it was less than expected and creates that expense. That's fine if there's only one expense that month, but some months there might be multiple. So for that, you would just come in here, you just click split transaction, and then you can literally build, a breakdown of this £137. So you can, do a mixture of income or expenses. And you just start filling it in. So you could just say, this is made up of £400 of rental income on this property.
Yeah, you're splitting 137 there, but yeah.
But even then there might be some expenses as well. So you can literally break this down into as many different income or expenses as you like, across as many different properties as you like, and then it will be shown accordingly.
Thank you. And then David's asked, are there any banks for which the feed can't be put in place?
Yeah, so actually, if you click on add bank account, James, we can just quickly have a look at most of the high street. So where we have our own FCA license for open banking. So what you find is a lot of organizations don't, but we actually do. And that's because, we understand the data, and also we have the security practices in place to do that. And as a result, we've got most of the major high street retailer banks on the platform, and we also got a few challenge banks and also some quirky banks in here. But you'll find that most of the banks are on here, and we're adding more banks all the time as well.
Thank you. And then Darren's asked, how does it deal with mortgage interest and the repayment split? So can you split the interest and the repayment?
Yeah, so so in the similar way, when you get paid by the letting agent and they pay the short amount, Hammock works in a similar way. So you can split the actual mortgage payment as principal or mortgage interest. So you can see on the screen here. So you can either say mortgage interest or mortgage principal.
Yeah, so most of our landlords typically will have buy-to-let interest-only mortgages, in which case they would just track this as mortgage interest. But otherwise, you could just do a split transaction and split it between the principal and the interest, and then going forward, it will remember that and track it. I do always say to people with repayment mortgages, ultimately, like, your accountant's probably just going to want to see your statement at the end of the year anyway, but it certainly helps to give them an idea of what's going on in their properties and helps with forecasting.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then Sinead's asked, if the bank feed doesn't work, or you can't get an automatic bank feed, can you import it via, say, CSV?
Yeah, so you can add on the top right corner there, just above the numbers, you can add transactions manually as well.
Yeah, and actually for a lot of those particular people, what we typically find is that they would really just open a Hammock current account anyway, and then use that as a way to then separate their payments and have an automated feed. But yeah, sure, if people want to do it manually and add it manually, they can do it.
They can do it manually. So
when you say add it manually, is that adding each transaction manually, or is that importing it via CSV so they all appear?
We do both. So we can add it manually, or you can import it by CSV. But typically, landlords will send us the first CSV, so we can format it for them, and then they know how to do it. But yeah, as you find, all landlords are very different. Like our oldest customer, we're proud to say, is 82, and he can use Hammock. And if he can use Hammock, anyone can use Hammock.
And he loves Hammock.
And he loves it, yeah.
Thank you. Sinead asked, is the Bank of Ireland on the list of the ones that you can automatically import from?
I think it is, actually. I think we've just not enabled it. Bank of Ireland is on there, yeah. We might have not enabled it here. But what's quite interesting, actually, Sinead, is Hammock is actually going to launch in Ireland in the next 6 weeks, the Republic of Ireland. So I know we can add Bank of Ireland because we're actually launching there. We've probably just not enabled it on the platform.
There, yeah. Brilliant, thank you. And then Michelle's asked, does it have the facility to do 10 years backdated if we could access the bank CSV or PDF, as I've got a lot of let property campaign clients?
Okay, so if you import the data in, yes.
Yeah.
But in terms of the banks, there's certain banks that we use. Some of them let us go back 5 years, some of them let us go back 7 years, some of them only let us go back 3 years. So it really depends on the bank. But if you did it manually, it's fine.
Yeah, so basically, as long as you can get access to the data in some way, shape, or form, you can go back as far as you like.
As far as you like, yeah, exactly.
Excellent, thank you. That's all the question. I'll just check. Yeah, that's all the question I've got at the moment, James. Sorry, I'll let you get. On.
No, sure, that's great. So I guess the next thing I want to show you guys, which is something that is going to benefit you the most, is how all of this then feeds through to the tax statement.
Yeah.
So I'm going to click over here, and as I mentioned, so my particular setup is I have limited company, and then I have personal properties that are co-owned with my sister. So I can actually look at the different owners here. So if I want to just see what portfolios my sister's related to, I can click here. If I just want to see my business portfolios here, or I can see everything that's related to me. And I could actually also invite Penny to Hammock so she can access this as well.
Yeah.
And now if I click in and just look at my personal portfolios, you can see here that I own 75% of this portfolio, and I've got 2 properties. So when I look at my summary, it does show me what 100% of the income and expenses are, but it also shows me what my 75% is. Then we also break that down a bit further, and you can see we've got these different subtotals. So if I want to see what my property repairs and maintenance are, I can click that, and then actually the table below will update to only show me those figures.
Yeah. It's probably worth noting at this stage, actually. So the only thing we do is properties. So we don't take into account all the other investment income or other sources of income, and then accountants have to fill in that part. So what the accountants can download is a list of all the transactions and the subtotals from us, and even the notes that you've left and the landlord has left, and you can also download the receipts as well. But we don't capture what their salary is, what are their investment income to do. We only capture the property stuff, and this platform is just made for the properties. And this ultimately here then it also enables them to do some planning, because they can get some forecasting and have an idea what their tax bill is going to be. But again, this will also be led by you as well. Yeah. Now, I guess what I've shown you there is the features that are for kind of both you and the accountant, you and your landlords. What I'm going to quickly just run through is some additional features that the things that are really going to keep your landlords engaged. So first, I'm just going to jump over to the overview screen. So here, this now enables your landlord to kind of see, again, graphically how their business is performing throughout the year. They can also track their loan to value across their portfolio, which is really important, especially if they're trying to grow their portfolio, because this will affect lending. They can check their occupancy rates. They can see any missing or upcoming payments. As I mentioned before, if a payment is missed, we also notify the landlord as well, so that they know straight away. Most of the landlords we speak to tell us that the quicker they can speak to a tenant who's late with a payment, the more likely they are to get paid. So actually telling somebody immediately that there's a missing payment is actually really valuable. Yeah, and also it's probably worth highlighting at this point that we actually have mobile apps as well, so landlords can do this on the go, and they get notifications on the go as well.
Yeah. They can compare their rental yields on each property. They can look at the market risk of their portfolio, and we kind of summarize their arrears for them here as well. Now, speaking of arrears, I know we kind of touched on this before. A really key feature here is that we can show the landlord what their arrears balances are. So we can see here Pam is in arrears. And if I click in here, we've got this tenancy is set up. She pays monthly on the 20th of the month. So I can go through and see for each payment period exactly what has happened. So what date it was due, when the payment was received, how many transactions there were, and then ultimately what my arrears balances are. So you can still see here that my tenant underpaid by £100 back in June. So they fell into arrears of £100, and the following month they made it back up. So they overpaid, and the arrears went back to zero. then they missed a payment in November and have been in arrears ever since. And so, yeah, and this is just a really, really great feature, which our landlords tell us all the time is just adds so much value. And then finally, Manoj touched on compliance. Now, there's so much that landlords have to remember these days in terms of, gas certificates, electric certificates, insurance, and the penalties for falling foul of these compliance is getting bigger and bigger as well. So actually, what we enable landlords to do is manage all of their documents from one place. So they can basically see all the different types of documents, which property it relates to, and the expiry date. And as a landlord, I can even go, well, I just want to see what I have to deal with in the next 3 months. And I can see, right, okay, I've got a tenant moving out, I've got to renew a gas cert, and I've got to renew my insurance. And we'll also send reminders email reminders to the landlord as they get closer and closer to expiry to make sure that they never kind of miss these deadlines. And I think that's probably it for the demo. So I'm going to hand back to you.
No, they've got it's worth probably showing the accountant. The most important piece James has forgot, the accountant dashboard.
Yeah, sorry. So that is the end of the that's the end of the landlord dashboard, and so that's the product that your clients will use. But of course, you need a way to actually access that to make this worthwhile, and that's where your accountant dashboard will come in. So this is kind of what you guys will see. So you'll see all of your clients here. You'll be able to see how many properties they've got, how many tenancies, and some high-level figures. You can also drill down here, and you can see. So Paul here has 2 portfolios. Again, you can sort of see graphically how it's going throughout the year. And then obviously from here, you can actually go in. You can impersonate his account. You can download the tax statement and download the receipts. And if you do impersonate them, then obviously you come back to exactly the sort of screen I showed you before, where you'd probably just want to go through, have a look through the transactions, make sure everything kind of makes sense, and then ultimately head into the tax statement and download his taxes from here.
Yeah, and also you can leave notes on particular transactions. You can flag that there's no missing invoices and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and you can also see any other landlords that you've invited to the platform who haven't signed up yet.
So in terms of you can probably stop sharing now actually. So in terms of the onboarding process, you guys invite the landlords and we actually set them up. So it's actually very, very simple. As I said, our platform is actually made for landlords. What are the costs? Great question. So I'll share my screen quickly. So in terms of the cost, I should probably just mention this actually. So in terms of what I didn't mention before is Hammock has been around for 2 years, and these are some of our investors. So we're backed by Aviva. We're backed by 5 VCs and some well-known angel investors like Simon Franks, who did like Love Film, Zoopla with Alex Chesterman, Cinch, founder as well. We're quite well funded and well backed in the industry. We also have a web app and mobile app, which I didn't mention before.
Susie's asked, can you file the MTD submission direct from the software?
So we are looking at becoming a pilot with HMRC for the MTD. And so we're either going to allow the accountants to do it through their own software, or we will give the accountants the option to do it through ours. But obviously we don't capture the wider picture. We only capture the property situation. So we will build an interface for them to fill it in the background. But also we're looking at integrating with bridging software like BTC and stuff like that as well.
Thank you. And then an add-on question to that: one license for multiple owners, but can you do each person's MTD submissions? Well, you.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Providing like the login, the account has all of the property in that. So, but yeah, you can.
Thank you, Vanessa. I've got your question. And I'll ask it, but I don't understand it, Vanessa. So you might just need to expand on it for me a little bit, please. How does the Hammock bank account work with the landlord?
Yeah, so the Hammock current account is just like any other bank account in the sense that we have to do KYC on them, we have to do AML checks on them. Once they've passed that, we then send them the debit card, and we so I might have some with me. So we've got our own debit cards, which you can see on the screen. So we post out the debit card to them, and we give them a sort code and an account number. It just works and behaves as any other current account.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to just stop your screen from sharing so we can see your big over on the screen. So if people, or when people want to go forward with this, what's the best way to brilliant. It's just James has just popped it in the chat box. So just explain how that works. What's the next step?
Yeah, so the next step is if you click on the link that James has just shared in the chat function, if you fill in that form, we'll contact you and we'll get you set up on our platform. And like I said, it's a really simple setup process. You invite the landlords using our link, and then we actually onboard the landlords. And one of the things that we don't probably emphasize on is that we actually reduce the number of queries accountants get sometimes, because the Hammock platform is doing so much of it behind the scenes. And we end up doing some of the support for them as well. So we actually do reduce the workload for landlords. I'm not sure if you can see the link. Can everyone see the link that we posted?
I think originally it only went to panelists.
He posted it in a secret little channel thing that we've got, but it is definitely there now. And I know there's a bit of a special offer if you use that link rather than go to the website. Yeah,
so at the moment we've got a promotional offer on. At the moment, we're not charging any setup fees. The discounts that you see there are pretty much the discounts we're offering to everyone here. And in terms of the length of the contract, we're really flexible. Our product sells itself and speaks for itself. So the minimum time is actually only 12 months. So it's, and you can have that. You can have it. Some of our accountants have done 4-year contracts, 5-year contracts. Some have done 12 months, but we're really confident with our product.
Excellent, thank you. So those links are in there. If you click the links and fill in your details, and we'll kick the process off. So we've got some more questions then, just to finish off. Sinead, and I apologize, Sinead, I know it took me 20 minutes nearly to get to this, but can you attach receipts to the bank transactions? So when you're posting the bank transactions, can you upload a PDF or a JPEG for reference purposes?
Yes, you can. So I think in the demo, we might have showed it after the question, but you can add a note or you can add a receipt, or do both. With our platform. Yeah,
and it's particularly easy to do that, especially if you're using the mobile app, because then obviously you can just quickly take a photo, upload it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then Malcolm's asked, how are property capital values tracked? So he's thinking about active CGT planning advice. Is it manual or is it an automatic process?
Yeah, so we have a valuation process in the tool, which James didn't show, but on our platform, you can track the valuations. Like we've got mortgage valuation, letting agent valuation, and we've got a Hammock valuation as well. So users can request a valuation from us.
Thank you. And then Shankar has asked, and I've seen this in the chat box, Mark. So can you integrate it with Dext or auto entry or HubSpot, for example? So the receipts are automatically imported from Dext.
Look, in theory, we can integrate with anyone because we've got the APIs. So in theory, we can actually even integrate with Xero and QuickBooks if required. But it really depends on the accountants, where they're steering us in the roadmap, to be honest. But yeah, we have all the APIs are really available already. We're a tech-first company in that sense.
Brilliant, thank you. And I've just seen you've asked the same question, Graham, as well. So thank you for that. And then Michelle, I missed your hand being up, Michelle, as well. So apologies for that. That's on a different screen. But I've seen your question in the chat bot in the Q&A. It's gone there. Brilliant, Michelle. Thank you. So Michelle, what do your clients need to provide you to connect to their bank? Because often they have security checks. So how do they connect?
Yeah, so look, the open banking is actually done by the user. So we don't ever see the banking credentials ever. So when the user logs into when they're adding their banking credentials, they're actually doing it at the bank. So open banking was introduced by the FCA to create competitiveness amongst the banks. So at any one point, we will never see the banking data. In terms of the users, all they need to do is sign up to the website and then follow our secured logged in area and tap on add bank account. and it will then redirect them to their bank to give them permission to share it with us.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. And thank you if you're still here, Roland. When he disappeared, Roland says excellent presentation. He's got to leave now for another meeting. So thank you for that, Roland. So we're at 10:29. I think we've got time for this last brief question. With open banking, do they have to reconnect every 3 months?
Yeah, so as a security feature, driven by banks and also driven by us, we recommend clients to reconnect their bank accounts, but we remind them that their bank's due to expire. So we track that it's coming up for 3 months and they'll go in and resync it. But we also have like mobile apps to try and make it easier as well to resync. But most of our landlords, we've been going for 2 years now, most landlords just reconnect the bank account straight away.
And I'm gonna start, because it's a pain in the backside with Xero and all sorts of different things. So I'm gonna start a campaign to get that 3 months extended to 12 months. I find it really, just as a client myself, I find it really annoying. I have to keep going in and doing the same thing over and over again. But anyway, I'll get on that soapbox another time. So last question before we disappear very quickly. On the accountant portal, can you have different user access? So can you have different team members accessing the portal in different ways?
Yes, you can. So you can invite your employees to the portal, and that's something we will enforce. We don't want people sharing credentials.
Excellent. Thank you. And Mark's just popped that link in the chat box again, because it all scrolled off as different people were saying different things. So just click that link and enter your details, and away we go. So that just leaves me very briefly to say thank you very much, Manoj OBE and James, for coming along today, for sharing Hammock. It's fired off all sorts of ideas within my head around my own personal circumstances, and also within the accountancy practice as well. So thank you very much for that. And also to say thank you very much to everybody else that's coming along, and for those of you that's asked questions. As Sinead said, brilliant presentation. Thank you. And Graham's very informative. So thank you very much for your kind comments. And that just leaves me to do the usual virtual round of applause and the obligatory Zoom wave to say goodbye. Cheers. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching this video with the team from Hammock, all about how you can help your landlords and your practices save time and money looking after properties. As always, if you've got any comments or questions, please post them in the comment section below this video, and we will do our very best to answer them. Please click the thumbs up button on the video to like it. And as always, subscribe to the channel so you get notified of the next video that we upload. On the screen below me down here somewhere, you will see the suggested videos that we expect or would think that you would like to watch next to inspire, challenge, and support you in running your accountancy practice.